All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be covering all the secrets to hitting a perfect third shot drop. In fact, if you learn to drop the way we're going to teach you, you'll never lose games. Okay, maybe you'll still lose some games here and there, but these are the exact techniques that took Kyle and I overnight from being pretty average doubles players to winning rec games like nothing. So make sure to stay tuned to the end of this video because we do have some pro techniques and some more advanced techniques coming. But first, let's jump right into the basics.
Pickleball is not just a game of hand-eye coordination and athleticism. It is key, especially in doubles, to control the pace of the game. And that's why the third shot drop is something you need to know. But what is a third shot drop? A third shot drop is a shot that allows you to neutralize your opponent's advantage, allow you time to get up to the kitchen, and reset that point. A good third shot drop should make your opponent have to hit up on the ball, not allowing them to continue to attack you while you're in transition coming up to the kitchen. The third shot drop is a great shot to use if you want to slow the game down and allow yourself time to move up to the kitchen line so that your opponent does not keep attacking you. In this case, he's going to hit me. I'm going to hit a drop so that I can move up to the kitchen and he doesn't have a chance to go out there and attack that ball so that I can still come up and not get attacked. The third shot drop is a great shot to use in doubles because most likely after they return your serve, your opponents are going to be crashing up to the kitchen, meaning a great way to neutralize that point and take away their advantage is to hit a drop shot into the kitchen, slow everything down, and equalize that point.
Okay, so hopefully by now you know what the third shot drop is and when you should be using it. But it's actually one of the hardest shots to master in pickleball. So let's jump into some basic technique to make it more consistent for you before we get into some advanced techniques later on. So the first tip when implementing a third shot drop is actually going to be to set your feet early, right? It sounds simple, but a lot of beginners don't actually set their feet. What they'll do is they'll let the ball get on them and then they'll just hit off their back foot. What that's going to do is cause a pop-up, but you can solve that easily by getting back, getting ready, and then being able to hit through the ball and be more balanced when you hit it. That'll make you a ton more consistent. Now, a lot of people actually get confused on when you're hitting the third shot drop, where should you set your feet, right? So I like to think of it, whatever side of your body the paddle is on, the opposite foot should be forward, right? So if I have the paddle on my right hand, my left foot's forward. If I have it on the left side of my body, then my right foot's gonna be forward for more of a backhand drop. But in general, most beginners are gonna do forehand drops. So you're gonna have your left foot forward if you're a righty and your right foot forward if you're a lefty. I try and stay away from squaring my body up too much unless you're advanced, maybe doing a shovel drop or something. But most beginners, right, if you have your feet square, you're trying to hit a drop shot, A, your eyes are not going to be behind the ball, and B, your paddle actually doesn't have as much length through. So if I have my left foot forward, I have my eyes behind the ball, I could strike it a little bit farther out in front, and my paddle stays consistent through the zone. Okay, so I mentioned earlier you don't want to be on your back foot because you'll pop up the drop. So I like to make sure this front leg or whichever leg is in front is bent a little bit more. That makes sure you're even. Another thing you can think of is as you're hitting it coming through, because that'll make sure you're not leaning too far back. If I'm leaning back, I can't come through. So I want to be able to come through so I can keep that ball a little bit lower and not pop it up quite as much. Now, in general, when starting out with a third shot drop, it's important to kind of keep the paddle tip down. As you get more advanced, maybe put some spin on your drops. You can flatten out that paddle a little bit, maybe on a backhand drop as well. But for most beginners, keeping that paddle tip down will help you set a better angle and just be more smooth through the drop. So now when actually hitting the drops, I tell people to obviously keep that paddle tip down like I just talked about, but maintain a short backswing, right? A lot of people, when they're hitting their drops, they'll get a full backswing in. You don't want to do this. You want to feel like you're almost catching the ball. So I'll give you a couple examples here. Kyle's just going to hit me a few, and all I'm going to do is just catch the ball, right? I'll show another one here. I'm just not swinging until the ball gets to me. And this will just make you a lot more controlled when hitting your drops and will just help you be more consistent with them. I know that's a lot, so just make sure to practice that. But now that you have those basics down, what you want to think of when you're actually hitting the ball is not striking the ball as it's coming up, right? So if the ball's coming up, don't hit it. Wait for that ball after it bounces to travel downwards. So try and hit the ball right there, and this will help make you more consistent as well. Another tip for beginners is to actually strike the ball a little bit farther out in front of yourself. So you'll see here, if Kyle hits me the ball, and I kind of catch it too deep, I'm getting it awkward, right? So getting that ball farther out in front just makes the shot a little bit more simple, and you can actually track it off the paddle. So here's an example of me getting it out in front, tracking it off the paddle. A good way to put this all together, right? Paddle tip down, short backswing, and just getting the right feel is to make sure, just to practice, honestly, tossing the ball over the net when you're getting started, right? A lot of people don't practice tossing it over the net, but what that's going to do is give you the exact feel. You can see there, I have my left foot forward, you're going to naturally just kind of not have a huge backswing because you're tossing a light ball, and all you're going to do is just feel that. So I recommend people practicing that even before they start doing drops with the paddle. All in all, these tips are just meant to help you be more consistent, right? So just quick recap, keeping that paddle tip down, short backswing, swinging from the arm, right? Like you're throwing the ball. I mean, those are some of the main things. Obviously, getting your feet set early. But yeah, just remembering that when you're practicing, right? The third shot drop, we'll get into some drills later as well. But the third shot drop is hard to master. So really just applying these basic techniques in practice will make you so much more consistent.
Hey, what's up, everybody? We just want to take a quick break to say thank you to S2 Pickleball in Boise, Idaho for letting us use their courts. If you're in the Boise area, make sure to go check them out.
But having the perfect form won't actually make you much better of a player unless you know how to place your drops. So let's get into where you should actually hit your drops to give you the highest chance of success on the court. So in terms of placement, the first thing I would recommend most people think about is not actually trying to hit the ball barely over the net, right? If you aim to hit the ball about in this area, your miss is going to be a good amount of the time. If you barely miss hit that ball, you're going to hit it into the net. So what I like to tell beginners is to actually aim to kind of land the ball deeper into the kitchen. Yes, ideally you kind of want the ball up in the kitchen, right? So it's less attackable, but it can be kind of awkward if it comes down about right here near the kitchen line, and it's just going to give you a more margin of error. So I'll kind of show the benefits of this, right? Obviously, hitting the ball out of play is bad. You can't do anything if you hit the ball out of play. But if I hit a bad drop to Kyle, what's going to happen is I still have a chance, right? So it was actually a decent drop. But that's why you aim deep. Here with Kyle, I'm going to hit the first drop a little high, right? He's going to be able to attack this, but I just stay back. I can hit it again. I can stay back if it's high. But then eventually I hit a good one and I can come up, right? So when hitting your third shot drops, you want to make sure to also try and place them across the court sometimes, because this will give you more room for error, especially when you're starting out, right? If you're consistently hitting them too long, it's going to give you the benefit of getting more space for them to go into play. Also, if you're aiming middle, the net's going to be a little bit lower technically, right, because of a little bit of droop of the net. So aiming across the court is a good place to start, especially for beginners. When hitting it across the court, it's generally best to aim for somebody's backhand, right? If you're able to attack someone's backhand, weaker players tend to pop the ball up a little bit more. So aiming for their backhand is going to help you be more effective on your third shot drop. Another good strategy when using the drop in doubles is to aim for the middle of the court, because this can create confusion on who should get it. And actually, when you're hitting it, aim for the player on the right side's backhand, right? If it's a righty on the right side of the court, or opposite from you, the left side, if you aim for their backhand, it's going to cause even more confusion, and they're probably going to end up hitting an awkward shot. But now that you understand placement, let's talk about spin. A lot of people ask about spin when it comes to drops. Most beginners should not worry about spin at all. But once you're very consistent with your drops, spin can actually enhance them and help make them more consistent. Okay, so why would you actually want to implement spin? Well, spin in terms of top spin is good because you can actually spin that ball downwards, right? So as it gets over that net, it's going to dive more sharply into the kitchen. And this can kind of allow you to hit somewhat of a mix between a drive and a drop shot. So a very soft drive with a lot of spin will actually dive down to your opponent's ankles in the kitchen, which can be an effective form of the drop, especially to the backhand side. Now, using backspin generally is pretty good, because when your opponent goes to hit the ball, they may actually dink it into the net, especially if it's an awkward shot. But the problem with backspin is it's a little bit harder because it does float up a little bit longer. So if you do get a backhand deep in the court, you can get it to float up and get it over that net. But if you are close to the net and you catch this a little bit too much, you're likely going to hit it too high. So backspin's a little bit tougher to master, but can still be beneficial. And there's not really one that's better between the two. It's just about finding a difference and a mix to keep your opponents off balance. Okay, so how do you actually implement a top spin drop? Well, earlier we talked about having the paddle tip down, but now when you're going to spin a drop, you want to actually get it more horizontal. And you also want to close that face a little bit, right? You don't want it quite as open as you had it on a normal drop, right? You kind of had it like this. Now you want it more flat, and more flat this way too. And then the next main thing to think about, right, is just coming a little bit lower to high, right? Less of just a short backswing and just a little bit low to high through that ball. And that's going to get more spin on it. I'll demonstrate this shot now with Kyle, just focusing on kind of keeping my wrist stiff, right? Not overly using the wrist to do this, just kind of swiping across the back of the ball as I go to drop it. And this will just give it a little bit of spin. So here it's just the same thing as a normal drop, but just brushing against the back of the ball. Here's another example of the top spin drop here, just brushing against the back of it. In terms of the backspin drop, you can do this on your forehand or backhand side. I tend to do it on the backhand side, but on the forehand side, it's pretty simple, right? You're just going to open the face up more and keep that paddle flat again. So horizontally flat, but then open that face up. And then same sort of thing as the backspin drop. You can just come through and catch it, and the face will do the work. This time you're not doing much movement, right? You're just coming through flat and letting the face add spin. Same thing with the backhand, right? Putting that right foot forward, and you're just kind of flattening out that stroke. You're not going low to high on this one. You're just going straight through and just kind of letting that face spin it. Now the forehand backspin drop is it's pretty tough. So just make sure to lightly strike it. And this one will require some practice, but I'm just gonna keep that face flat and come through smoothly. You see that one's a little bit high, right? Tough to master. I don't really use that shot a ton, but now let's work on the backhand one here. This is gonna be the same thing, but just keep it flat. Barely hit it over that net.
Now that you know the basic technique to the third shot drop and how to spin it, let's jump into some more advanced technique that you can implement into your practice session. The first technique is called the shuffle drop. This is a drop shot that Ben Johns uses as a way to get up to the kitchen while hitting a drop shot. Essentially, this shot is about hitting the ball behind you and allowing yourself to move forward in a shuffle way, hitting a quality drop shot while still being able to move up to that kitchen line. As I mentioned earlier, Ben Johns, one of the top players in the world in pickleball, uses the shuffle drop, and he recommends to have your wrist fully cocked to make sure you are consistently hitting the ball the same way every single time and to minimize errors. All right, the next advanced technique we want to cover with you is the full shovel technique or the full face technique. This technique is showing the full face of your paddle down low and letting the ball hit your paddle rather than going out and hitting it. This situation arises when your opponent hits a hard return back at you and catches you deep on your side of the court, but you still want to hit a drop shot. And in this case, right, you're going to absorb the power of their drive and not go out and get it because their power is going to allow you to absorb and hit a quality drop shot. Now, when you do start to play at the higher levels, people will like to start to drive the third shot and then drop the fifth shot. People use that aggressive third shot drive to put offensive pressure on the opponent. Putting that offensive pressure right away can cause them to make an error and allow you to win that point. Now, if your opponent's able to return that third shot drive, you can then now move into a fifth shot drop, which can once again reset the point, neutralize the advantage, and once again, bring it back to an even pace of play.
Okay, so that's been a ton of information on third shot drops, but the most important thing is actually being able to implement it into your game. So Kyle and I have a really awesome drill here called skinny singles, and what this does is it really allows you to practice these drops and practice just all around pickleball skills at the net. But it really puts into practice how using a drop or a drive, for that matter, can help you get up to the kitchen a little bit quicker. So now we'll demonstrate this. I'm starting up at the kitchen. Kyle starts back. And the score starts out 5-5, right? If I score a point, then it goes to 6-4. But we'll just walk you through it right here. And it adds a score. This is a great warm-up too, right? But all we're doing for this drill is Kyle's essentially practicing getting up to the kitchen. And then I'm trying to keep him back as long as possible and win this point. It's just like a normal game after the serve. So I serve it to him. He's going to try and hit a drop, and he does. So now we're both up at the kitchen just practicing our normal skills. And yeah, we'll just end this one because you get the point there. But then say Kyle won that point. Now it's 6-4, and I'll move back here, right? So he's now up 6-4. And we usually play first person to reach 10 points. But now that I'm back, I'm going to go ahead and use a drive maybe as a third shot drive like we talked about, and then a drop to get up to the kitchen and potentially win the point, right? So as you can see, we didn't get too far into that gameplay there, but that drill is a great opportunity to really practice the volley skills at the kitchen and also just using a drive or a drop shot to get up to the kitchen.
For this next drill, you're just going to be starting up at the kitchen line, and now you're going to have a partner hit you a ball, and every time you successfully hit a drop, you want to move back. So just like this. Yeah. I'm going to successfully hit a drop here. I'm going to move back. Just hit me another one. I'm going to hit a successful drop, move back again. Hit another one, hit a successful drop. I'm going to move back. And you just keep doing that till you get to the back of the court here, and you just want to continue to practice that until you get it down. A great way to practice this if you don't have a partner is to literally just drop the ball and hit it over. If it's successful, move back, drop it again, and hit it again. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about pickleball, make sure to check out our last video, 6 pickleball shots that you need to improve your game. Peace out.